example of something you might find in the pile. This was a chandelier that was likely hanging from the ceiling. The water's moving swift and steady down this ravine. It could sweep you away if you're not careful. The energy is high out here tonight as people are filing in for the venue's opener. But now it's areas like this massive field behind me that looks more like a man-made lake right now than it does farmland. Laurel, I'm out here near Alberton, but you can get a pretty good glimpse of the smoke from this fire. It's a little orangey just behind me here. I just got a whiff of smoke, and in case you can't tell, it is pretty windy out here, and I can only imagine this is something really fueling the fire. Now, this is very developing information, so I'm just going to read you my notes of the information we just got confirmed. I've got one of those infrared thermometers here. Right now, the pavement, it's a whopping 115 degrees. I don't know if you can see this, though. Out on the asphalt, it's even hotter. Police are still searching for that suspect tonight, but this is the parking lot where all that action went down earlier this morning. Check this out. You can even still see the green chalk on the ground here, marking where police found a bullet shell casing earlier today. Now, as you can see, this tunnel that runs underneath the street, it's more than halfway full with snow and ice right now. Now, when that ice melts, it will cause a rush of water that will be more than the tunnel can handle and cause potential flooding in the area. Taylor, you can just see the oil still dripping here down the side of this plane. Emergency crews put these mats underneath the plane earlier today to catch any of that residue. Earlier this morning, the water was gushing over my ankles. Just a few hundred yards from where emergency crews dumped sand last night, you can see the effects of the flooding in the fields right nearby. And in today's age of social media, nothing you say or do online is private, which is exactly how this story went viral. Taylor, this big guy here, his name is Zorro. He's 10 pounds. He's a purebred silver fox rabbit, and he's just one of the animals being judged at this weekend's competition.
NBC Montana's Montana Maclachlan went to the area being evacuated today. She reports from Tarkio, west of Missoula.
Good evening. I'm out here in the Tarkio area, but I'm sure if you live in the greater Superior area, you can really smell the smell of campfire lingering around right now. I'm actually standing on Courts Road. All of the homes, which we are told are about 50 residents right now on this road, are under stage 2 evacuation, which means collect and gather your belongings. Today we spoke with some residents up here who tell us what it's like getting ready to pack up their whole lives. Courts Road marks home for Todd Vanderplug. His wife, 2 daughters, and parents have lived near Superior here for 11 years.
We all live here. We all know what's in the valley behind us.
And what's there, inching closer and closer to Todd's home, the Sunrise Fire.
We're about a mile here and about 3/4 of a mile here.
Todd's family spent today packing since they received pre-evacuation notice yesterday afternoon.
I just took everything I needed to build a house. I figure if I got to start over, I'd better have my stuff. I went through and took the general shop tools out, my air compressors, nailers.
And he's not the only one preparing for the worst. Just down the road, fire crews worked all day to clear brush from the side roads.
This is a fire that's gonna be with us for a while just because of the difficult nature of the terrain plus the fuels.
Operations Chief Mike Bayern says the terrain is posing a particular challenge.
You know, we've got these windy one-way roads with no secondary way out, and it's hard to get equipment up there in a timely fashion.
And Todd knows it's all about timing. He feels confident the fire will reach his home.
So I'm expecting stage 3 pretty soon just because of the weather. We can all see what the weather's doing. The weather isn't going to cooperate with anybody.
Fire officials say some homeowners are electing to stay, but Todd says he's not worried if the worst comes.
I mean, it's out of our hands. You know, it's in God's hands. It's in the Forest Service hands. So if we lose it all, we did the best we could to save everything, of course. But if we lose it all, we'll just start over.
Now, tomorrow night, we're told there will be a public informational meeting that will be at 7 p.m. just off of exit 55 at Lozo Lodge for anyone who lives in the area wanting more information. But if you can't make that, you can also call the phone number right on your screen right now. If you'd like to learn more, there are fire officials answering that line all day and can give you the latest updates. Stay with us for more updates on the Sunrise Fire. Reporting in Tarkio, Montana Maclachlan, NBC Montana. The Sunrise Fire is now burning just about a mile over the ridge behind me, but right now about 50 homes sit just next to me. Tonight, up to 100 residents do still remain under that stage 2 evacuation order, meaning prepare your belongings. And today we spoke with structure protection specialists who told us what they're doing to prepare for the worst. Not if, but when That's the message fire officials are sending residents on Courts Road.
It's more or less inevitable that the fire will come this way.
The winds calmer today, giving crews a much-needed break in the action, but more forecasted heat has them gearing up fast.
We were told that if it's hot this week, it's supposed to be even hotter next week.
It's a record dry month, but structure protection trainee Eric Roden has a plan.
So we'll fight fire with fire.
This line of trees marks where the burning backcountry and neighborhood meet. Eric says crews are prepared to ignite a fire uphill to prevent the main one from reaching homes.
Once our fire goes up to the main fire, it consumes all the fuels, so the main fire has nothing to eat. And then what'll end up happening is we're kind of herding the fire out into the open country where there's no structures.
But then the question lingers, where will the fire go after that? Enter more crews. They spent the day clearing brush and debris back on the main road in case the fire moves that way.
What we call those are ladder fuels when the branches go all the way to the ground. So when fire's on the ground, it will ignite those branches and carry up the trees. And then once the fire's in the trees, it's very difficult for us to control as it's in an aerial component at that point.
In addition, dozens of vats called pumpkins sit at nearly every property. They can hold up to 6,000 gallons of water and hook up to resident sprinklers. It's all crews can do down here when they know the worst lingers just a few miles away. An informational meeting for the public will start in just about 1 hour where you can learn more about all the activity of this fire going on right now. That starts at 7 at Lozo Lodge, just off of exit 55.
And residents who lost their homes in the fire are still not allowed to go back and assess the damage.
Our Montana Maclachlan spoke to one Hamilton woman whose home was reduced to ashes.
Good afternoon, Ravalli County Museum. Thelma speaking.
Greeting customers at the Ravalli County Museum is the only thing Selma Durbin can do to numb the pain.
This is probably one of the hardest things I've ever went through in my life.
The Roaring Lion fire destroyed her home of 26 years.
I can never go in that home again because it just isn't there. I feel a very, very deep loss, and I know that loss isn't going to be replaced because it's gone.
Selma had just returned from volunteering Sunday afternoon when a deputy knocked on her door.
He said, "Get out of here right now and don't loiter."
With barely 15 minutes to get out, this pair of shoes, her phone, and a few photographs was all she could take.
All the things that I had from my children, my mother and father, they're no longer there. It's like a death. It's gone. And it's not coming back.
Friends came by the museum to check in all day. Her Facebook page is flooded with comments. Through the trauma, Selma's overwhelming selflessness is what pushes her through.
If my home had to burn, so be it. If the other homes were saved because mine burned, I'm glad. Because they're not going through what I'm going through.
For now, she just hopes to find peace of mind.
And I think one of the things that hits me is I can't drive back up that road and go into my house. It's just not there.
Selma is now torn between moving to Arizona to be closer to family or staying in a place she loves but is now deeply scarred.
I loved the quiet. I could sit out on the deck and listen to the breeze going through the pines.
In Hamilton, Montana Maclachlan, NBC Montana.
To wait out the judge's decision, you might have noticed construction work happening on that building right now.
We sent Montana Maclachlan to find out why workers are there when no demolition decisions have been made. Montana.
As Steve Laurel, I've made close to 50 phone calls and sent 50 emails the last 2 days just to track all of this information down. A worker on site told us all he knows is that his company, Environmental Contractors, was hired to remove sheetrock and asbestos from the building. Now, asbestos is a toxic material that, if inhaled, is proven to cause lung and respiratory disease, even cancer. But if the fate of the MRC is still up in the air, we wanted to know who's paying for all of this work and why. If you've walked by, you've seen it. Workers in white suits, bobcats in action. But if the fate of the Missoula Mercantile is still undecided, what's going on? We went to find out. A worker told us they've been removing asbestos from the Merc ceiling and windows since November. Asbestos That developer, Homebase Montana, told us was never fully cleaned up when the building was a Macy's department store 6 years ago. That's because renovation plans fell flat. And now, with the weather, the asbestos removal is causing problems. Crews told me that the process to remove asbestos has put some holes and cracks in the roof of the Mercantile, causing snow and ice to leak inside of it this winter. So who's paying for it? Development Services Manager Don Veru told us the city gave Missoula Mercantile LLC a permit to clean it out in October. We found out that company, Missoula Mercantile LLC, is the development partner of Homebase Montana. Homebase plans to partially demolish the building, and they told us they're also paying for the cleanup. But here's the catch. Property records show Homebase doesn't even own the building. We found out cleaning up a building like that isn't cheap and certainly isn't easy. We went online and found sometimes asbestos cleanup can cost more than demolition itself. And new cleanup asbestos methods even cut out entire sections of a building. Homebase didn't get back to us on which method they're using, but the city says no matter who owns it, the asbestos has to go. We dug even further and found the building's current owners, Octagon Partners, has over $20,000 of unpaid property taxes. We reached out to them, and their manager, J.P. Williamson, told us they've always paid and will pay everything owed in the next 48 hours. But he also told us he's frustrated about this whole lawsuit.
We're paying taxes on a property that we have been unable to sell due to the actions of a preservation group that opposes the demolition of the building and has filed an appeal to the city's decision. We anticipate a ruling on that process shortly.
So the bottom line for all of this for the Missoula Mercantile is that it's still a waiting game, but it sounds like the end could be coming soon. Reporting live in Missoula, Montana, Maclachlan, NBC Montana.